Hi, I'm Gil Reynolds. This is Allison Neld. We're here for FuseMaster Products. Here's a continuation of the Flexi-Glass video series. In the first video, we talked about how to make a basic sheet and some of the considerations of how Flexi-Glass elements will change when you fire them depending on where they're positioned, either on the kiln shelf, between layers, or on top of the glass. Today I'd like to take that a little bit further and just talk about some of the variations that occur when the elements are on top of the glass. Here we have some different samples. Can you tell us a little bit, Allison, about what's going on with this sample here?
Sure. So this is an example in the unfired state. When we just cut out our pieces, place them on our piece of glass here, and stick it in the kiln. This was 1420 for 20 minutes. You can see you get a little bit of shrinkage on each of these squares. So they're going to pull apart from each other. There's no overlap on any of them. So you get a very distinct kind of pattern in that pulling. On this one, we put just a really light layer of frit on top. And this is water clear fine frit.
And we're not getting quite as much contraction. These lips are actually a little more defined. It looks like the clear attached to the top layer and contracted with it. Well, this one here's a different look completely. What's going on here?
So with this one, we went ahead and made about an 1/8 inch thick coating.
Just covered the whole design.
The entire design, which, as you can see, you preserve the shape, but you do get a lot of bubbles in it.
Yeah, but they're small bubbles. Then they're not big obnoxious bubbles like you get trapped between layers. But it has some of a hazy quality, even though it's still frit. You have these small bubbles. But the shape is not shrinking. Your Flexi-Glass elements aren't contracting nearly as much.
So what we found is, with this last option, a really great way to maintain your same shape. So what we do with this one is we create a little slit, and we use 2 parts water to 1 part Flexi-Glass.
And what this does, it gives us a diluted version of the Flexi-Glass since it is so thick. And the trick on this one was a base layer of our slip, place our elements. Now that the moisture itself is helping them stay in position. I noticed how when you were doing the clear on top, they wanted to move around. So as it sits there, the bottom layer is getting wet. So I'm going to come back and use our same slip. I'm going to apply a light coat to the surface. Now what's going to happen is it's going to bond all these independent components into one single component. I don't want to overdo it, because as this gets wet, I can actually disturb and lose my pattern because the pieces are going to get soft and float around. So they're not going to contract as individual pieces. They're going to behave like a single unit, and you have nice, tight, crisp seams.
One thing that's really important when you're making your Flexi-Glass sheets is to remember that there's a big difference between the color you start with and your final result. So one thing I've done to try and help control that is, as soon as I make a sheet, I'll label it at the bottom corner, but I'll also cut off a corner of my sheet and create a little test strip. Because as you can see, you get a very different result from the cherry red to the red opal. In the unfired state, they look very similar, so if you're not labeling, they're easily confused in the unfired state. So I recommend just going ahead and making different test samples. I also like to put one right on top of my frit bottles, and you can really have a lot more control over your final product if you take the time to make some different samples.
Well, there's enough surprises in the kiln as it is. Anything we can do to help minimize those surprises and have control over our final result is going to be in our favor. I'm Gil Reynolds.
I'm Allison Neld from FuseMaster Products. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.